there, and welcome to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast. As always, I am Brandon Jadich. I am your host. We've had another busy week, a lot of transfer movement. We got a busy show today. Highlighting our show today will be some of the sleeper teams that we're going to see coming into next year. We're going to talk about some of maybe the potential winners of the conferences. We're going to talk about some of the potential losers of the conferences, maybe battling for to not come in last place in their conference. We're going to stick to the Power 5 conferences as of now because, quite frankly, how would we ever know who's going to be some of the top dogs in the mid-major world? I mean, obviously, McNeese is going to be really good. Dayton's going to be really good. Some of the A10 teams like St. Louis, they're going to be pretty solid. But we're going to stick to the Power 5 conferences as of right now. Quick little description of what the layout will look like. We always start with just some of the notable movements. The transfer portal is finally starting to close down. So we're going to talk about some of, Norchad Omier, some of the big names that just committed. Then we'll get into the team transfer rankings as we love to talk about. Then we'll talk about some of the sleeper teams as mentioned in the conferences with the first and last place. We're just going to go through all 5 of the conferences. We'll talk about some of the national champion odds right now via FANATICS Sportsbook. Things are changing frequently. We're also going to talk about some of our best future bets in terms of winning the national championship. Some schools have a little bit too good of odds, and we're going to talk about some of those. And then just a few more of the remaining transfers that we have left over. We're going to talk about some of the potential landing spots where I can see them ending up, where they would fit well, what some schools really need and to fill out their roster for the rest of the year. Thanks for being here with us. Before we get started, just a little bit of housewarming on what's been going on. Been trying to do this once a week. It's probably going to continue to be once a week, either Monday or Tuesday mornings. You'll be able to hear this. And shout out to all you guys. We've been getting thousands of views on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I encourage you to check out YouTube. We post a lot of great graphics on there. We finally hit 100 subscribers. I appreciate each and every single one of you. A lot of comments coming in. Love it. Love talking to all of you. Thank you guys so much. Because of this, I'll be honest, I'm looking for a little bit of an advertiser. I'm working full-time right now as a golf pro, so only so much time in the day. I'm looking for someone to advertise, maybe even sell some stuff. If you're into clothing and want to sell your clothes through this, I'm in. I mean, I have to make it worth my while as I'm working full-time. There's only so much in the day that I can do. If you want a golf lesson, give me a call. Give me a call. I'll cut you a huge deal for being a fan of the show. Really appreciate that. Our next show is going to be a fan mail show. We're going to have just people send in questions, whatever you want to know. It can be questions about anything, whatever you're curious about. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And then we're looking at maybe once the season comes around, probably not as much right now. Maybe doing a best bet show, maybe once a week. Know a lot of our fans seem to be into some of the betting industry, so. If everyone is on board with that, I'd love to get that going. So things you should be commenting. If you're an advertiser, if you want to sell stuff, let me know. Or if you can just help me advertise and get the name out there, I'll pay you for your time. Let me know. Are you interested in a best bet show? Yes or no? Comment below. Would you like some of that stuff? Then comment your questions for the fan mail. You can also comment on our Instagram, send me a DM, send me an email. I'll link everything down below in the description. Send questions that way. I'll answer them. I'll give you a shout out. I'll say your name. Let me know. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into it. Too much talking. Let's dive into some of the notable movements that have happened throughout the week. I mentioned we're going to talk about Norchad Omier. Let's start with him. Norchad Omier going from Miami to Baylor. Huge pickup for Baylor. Norchad Omier has averaged a double-double the past 2 years. He is that 6'7", plays like a center kind of guy, just aggressive, can jump. Expanded himself a little bit out to being a three-point shooter. Not the best three-point shooter, but at least he has that option available to him now. This is just the absolute perfect fit for Baylor. We're going to talk Baylor here in a little bit. Norchad Omier, huge pickup. By the way, is anyone else on like Norchad Omier weird thirst trap TikTok? Because for some reason, a lot of people have been posting thirst traps of him, and because I'm in the college basketball realm, they keep coming up on my TikTok. Weird stuff. Norchad Omier seems to be having a good time at Miami and now moving on to Baylor. Good for Norchad Omier. Moving on, Clifford Omiori. Going from Rutgers to Alabama, Alabama gets the big guy that they need. This is massive. Top 10 in just about every transfer portal ranking that you'll find. Clifford Omori, this is huge. Big guy, can block shots. I know you're thinking, oh, he played at Rutgers, he can't be that good. That is false. He is very good. He's huge, averages a lot of blocks per game. Rutgers to Alabama, huge pickup for Alabama. Kadari Richmond, who was a lot of people's number one transfer, he would personally be mine as well. Going from Seton Hall to St. John's, sticking close, going to play for Rick Pitino over at St. John's, along with Devin Smith from Utah to St. John's as well. Devin Smith, one of the fastest guys in the transfer portal. If I know you think Utah was not very good last year, true, but Devin Smith is very good. He's very fast. He's also going to St. John's. A lot of talk last year about Rick Pitino complaining about their lateral movement, how slow they can be. It's not going to be the case anymore with Kadari Richmond and Devin Smith. Nice pickups. Adu Thiero is following his head coach from Kentucky to Arkansas, following Coach Cal. Nice move there for Arkansas to get Adu Thiero. Desmond Cloud from Xavier going to USC to play for Eric Musselman over there. Nice pickup for USC. Caleb Battle going from Arkansas to Gonzaga. Six-man kind of guy. Great scorer, great pickup for Gonzaga. Gonzaga is deep. Gonzaga is good. They're a team to watch out for this year. Jordan Ivy Curry going from UTSA to UCF. I'm not as high on Jordan Ivy Curry as a lot of people are, but still decent pickup for UCF. We'll talk about UCF's lineup here in a little bit. We just have to go over it. It is one of the more interesting teams that we've seen in a long time. Virginia. Tony Bennett didn't do a lot early. He got 3 transfers this week, though. 3 pretty solid transfers, starting with TJ Power going from Duke to Virginia. Elite scorer. Probably was going to have limited minutes this year because of all those amazing freshmen coming in for Duke. But going to Virginia, this is a spot where I think he will thrive. I think this is a perfect fit for Tony Bennett in Virginia. They also got Elijah Saunders from San Diego State. He's got a lot of experience over there at San Diego State. And then Jalen Worley from Florida State, also coming to Virginia, will probably play the point guard. That'll get Isaac McNeely for Virginia as more of the shooting guard, which I love. Jalen Worley, he averaged like 5 assists a game last year. Very nice job by Tony Bennett this past week. Posh Alexander going from Butler to Dayton. Dayton is incredibly deep right now as well. We can go through Dayton's lineup just real quick. Now I'm thinking their starting lineup is going to be Malachi Smith, Posh Alexander, Enoch Cheats, Nate Santos, and then Durant Holmes. Coming off the bench with Zed Key transferring from Ohio State, who played a lot of minutes at Ohio State, and he's going to come off the bench along with Javon Bennett. It's a nice little starting 7 there for Dayton. I'm not that high on Posh Alexander. He's a terrific defender. Offensively, he's got some work to do, but for an A10 school, Dayton's going to be they're going to be a team to deal with. This might be a two-bid A10 next year with Dayton and St. Louis. Maybe even another surprising team can sneak in there. Moving on, Musa Cisse going from Ole Miss to Memphis. Memphis, another one of those rosters, really weirdly deep, but do they fit? I don't know. Tyrese Hunter, PJ Haggerty, 2 transfers, very good. With David Jones is going to be, he'll be a preseason one of top 3 All-American teams for sure. Now they got Musa Cisse and Dane Danger from Illinois. Remember, they have him along with Nick Jourdain, Jared Harris, Colby Rogers. It's a deep team. Can Penny Hardaway put all the pieces together? We'll see. Anthony Del Orso going from Campbell to Arizona. Good for Tommy Lloyd on picking this one up. I know you think coming from Campbell, he might not be that good. He is good. He's actually testing the draft waters as of right now. Averaged 19 a game last year. This was a great pickup. Tommy Lloyd in Arizona going down to the mid-major schools, even the low-major schools, going from Oakland and Campbell, getting their best players to come up to play for Tommy Lloyd. I like that style. I do like that style. We'll see about what Arizona's lineup looks like once the NBA draft process is all the way over. That's it for the transfers. Just a few. Let's mention Caleb Lohner. Caleb Lohner, the Baylor big man, transferring to Utah to play football, not to play. Well, he said he might play basketball, but initially going for football. That's pretty cool stuff. Something about Baylor. Remember Rico Gathers and Mark Vidal? They just produce football players for some reason on there. Shows kind of what Scott Drew likes to do. Big physical guys. Caleb Lohner going to Utah to play football. And then we did get notice that Riley Kugel, who we thought was going to play at Kansas, is not going to Kansas anymore. Probably for the best. His His ceiling was supposed to be really high his first 2 years. They really weren't. Now he was going to go to Kansas where, what would he have been? Seventh, eighth man probably. He would not play in front of Zeke Mayo, AJ Storr, or Rylan Griffin. I am very confident in that. And then Elmarco Jackson's been in the system. How good is Flory Badunga going to be? How good is he going to be? We don't know. I think Riley Kugel's minutes were going to be limited, and that is why he has decided to not go to Kansas anymore. Probably a good move for him. All right, let's move on. Let's dive into the team transfer rankings. The team transfer rankings have been changing like crazy. We now have Arkansas at number 1 with Indiana, Kansas, and St. John's following behind them. We're not going to go through all of them. We're just going to mention those ones because things are just changing at the top quite a bit. It's pretty cool to see how these teams are faring. As we mentioned, it was probably going to be Arkansas the entire time with Kyle Perry as your coach. Just can he put the teams together? All right, moving into the conference talk. This is going to be the highlight of the show. Sleeper teams, conference winners, conference last place. Let's talk about it. Let's go in alphabetical order, starting with the ACC. I do think North Carolina is going to win the ACC. I'm in on Hubert Davis. I didn't think I would ever say that in my life, but I'm in on Hubert Davis. The reason, if you have a betting market out there where you can bet who's going to win each conference, my probably number one thing would be to bet North Carolina. And the reason I say that is I'm 92% sure that they're going to get Coleman Hawkins. I don't think Coleman Hawkins is going to end up in the NBA draft. I think he's going to come back, and I think he's going to end up at North Carolina. I really do. I know North Carolina fans are questioning their big man. Even so, I'm not worried about it. I think Jalen Washington and Jalen Withers are better than people think. They're big. They're athletic. They've been in the system for a year at least. I think they're good. They're going to have probably the preseason all Wooden Award player, RJ Davis. They have him. Elliot Cadeau should make a step to his sophomore year. Cade Tyson was a terrific pickup. Mentioned on the last show, I think Cade Tyson is better than Cormac Ryan is. Cormac Ryan was that guy last year who obviously North Carolina ended up as a 1 seed. I like that. Seth Trimble coming back is so much bigger than people think. This is the best backcourt in the country. I do believe it. Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Ian Jackson, the freshman, Drake Powell, the freshman, and Seth Trimble. That's 5 deep where they're spectacular. I think this is overall, depth-wise, the best backcourt in the country. Elliot Cadeau needs to work on his shot. I know. He needs to. RJ Davis is going to average over 20 points a game this year. I'm certain of it. Cade Tyson is better than Cormac Ryan. I think North Carolina gets the job done. They also have Zayden High and James Brown coming off the bench. This is a terrific lineup. This is a good basketball team. I'm excited for North Carolina. Here's your projected lineup if Coleman Hawkins comes in. Elliot Cadeau at the 1, pass first point guard. RJ Davis at the 2, Ian Jackson, the star freshman. Cade Tyson, one of the best shooters in the transfer portal. He is spectacular. I love Cade Tyson. If he ends up being a fluke, just come back and hate on me for it. I'll take it because I'm in on Cade Tyson. And then Coleman Hawkins, who can stretch out, big guy, finally developed a shot. One of those guys where if you don't have him on your team, you hate him. You hate Coleman Hawkins. If you have him, you love him. He's a fan favorite. I think he ends up here. And then Jalen Washington, Seth Trimble, Drake Powell, Jalen Withers, Zayden High, James Brown. Coming off the bench, that team is loaded. I would take North Carolina to win the ACC as of right now. Now, who am I taking to come in last in the ACC? Florida State. I think it's Florida State. I do believe it will be either Florida State or maybe throw Virginia Tech in there, or one of maybe the new school, SMU or Stanford. I think SMU is going to be fine. I think they're going to be just fine. Maybe Stanford. I don't know. I love Kyle Smith. That's why a lot of this is just coaching. Even maybe throw Boston College in the conversation. But as of right now, I think I would take Florida State. Florida State had probably the worst transfer portal season out of maybe any Power 5 school. Their projected lineup looks like Daquan Davis, Chandler Jackson, Boston Holt, Jerry Dang, Taylor Bowen. Coming off the bench, AJ Swinton, Justin Thomas. No, not the golfer Justin Thomas, the basketball player Justin Thomas. Christian Nidu, Isaac Spainhour, and Jesse Jones. Not particularly too good. The bottom of the ACC, I think, is just like last year. Is going to be worse than most of most of the other conferences. Notice I didn't say Louisville. I don't think Louisville's going to come in last in the conference. It's tough to say whether they'll make the tournament. I mean, that's a big ask for Pat Kelsey, but I don't think they're going to come in last. I think they got a much better lineup than Florida State, Boston College, and Virginia Tech. Will it all fit? I don't know. We'll see. But Florida State, I do believe did end up having the worst transfer portal season. How about the sleepers? Let's talk about the sleepers. That's what everyone wants to know. Give me Virginia. I like what Virginia has going on here. Listen to their potential lineup. Jalen Worley, we mentioned, the transfer from Florida State, pass first point guard. Isaac McNeely is a terrific shooter. He was kind of the only bright spot on that pathetic offense last year. Elijah Saunders from San Diego State. TJ Power can score the ball. Blake Buchanan, terrific defender. He'll be the big man. Coming off the bench, Tane Murray, Andrew Rohde, Jacob Coffey, Elijah Gertrude, and Ishan Sharma. I don't know who Ishan Sharma is. I'm not going to lie. But the rest of the lineup, I like. I like Jalen Worley as that pass first point guard. Whenever Tony Bennett has great teams, I mean, obviously when they won that national championship, they had scores. He needs scores. He's always going to have a terrific defense. That's how he coaches. He slows the game down. You need those scores, and I think TJ Power can be that guy, along with McNeely's good. McNeely is good. Elijah Saunders, Jalen Worley. I like this team so much better than I liked them last year. And that team, a lot of people talked last year. They're like, they did not deserve to be in the tournament. And then NC State made the Final Four, and everyone's like, the ACC deserves to have so many more teams in the tournament every year. But, like, Virginia's resume was better than Pitt. Virginia's resume was better than Wake Forest. Eyeballing it, they couldn't score the ball. But Virginia came in third in the ACC. It's hard to put in Wake Forest or Pitt above them. I mean, Virginia beat Florida in the offseason, or in the non-con season, excuse me. It's hard. It's hard to argue that they didn't resume-wise deserve to be in, but I think that just kind of proves to the fact of how good Tony Bennett is as a coach. And I think with this team next year, it is much more talented. I think they're going to be good. I think I'd probably take them to come in third again in the ACC. I'd probably go North Carolina, Duke, Virginia, just like every other year it seems to be. But that's where I'm at right now with them. Now, no, I do not think this next team is going to win the conference, but I think they're going to be sneaky good. Yes, come back to this, mark this. May 13th, it's about 10 a.m. Come back to it. Georgia Tech. Something about this team I like. I love Javian McCollum. First off, I think Javian McCollum going to Georgia Tech was interesting. I thought as soon as Kentucky hired Mark Pope, I'm like, he's good enough. I think he can go there. He was a stud at Oklahoma. I really liked watching him play. I watched him play against Kansas a couple times, and I'm like, he's one of the better players on the floor. With him running point, Nathan George, who is spectacular at the 2, Kawasi Reeves at the 3, Luke O'Brien coming in from Colorado, Bey Ndongo. I like that starting lineup. Now, they're not going to win the conference, don't get me wrong, but we're talking sleepers that, hey, maybe they end up 500. They beat Duke last year, excuse me. They beat Mississippi State. They almost beat North Carolina. They, quite frankly, probably should have beat North Carolina. I like this lineup. Jalen Forrest coming off the bench. I have faith. I have faith in Stoudemire over there. I think this team is going to kind of shake things up a little bit in terms of the ACC. They're going to be one of those teams where they can compete with Duke. When they play their best, they can compete with North Carolina, especially at home. I'm quite frankly kind of excited for Georgia Tech. Now, come back to this when they end up, 6-12 or 6-14, however many games they play this year in the ACC. I don't know why. I have that feeling. About Georgia Tech. I'm excited to watch them. All right, enough about the ACC. Let's move into the Big 12, just going in alphabetical order. The Big 12. Now, it's fairly obvious. You can say, yeah, Kansas is going to win the regular season Big 12. Houston's going to win the regular season Big 12. I'm going to go out of the blue here. I'm going to take a little bit of a bold approach here. I think Baylor's going to win the Big 12. Now, they might tie with Kansas. I don't know. I just love Baylor's lineup this year. I'm going to take Baylor to win the Big 12. I'm sure they'll probably be the 4th favorite to win the Big 12, maybe even 5th. Arizona in there. Obviously the favorite will be Kansas, then probably Houston, then Iowa State, then probably Baylor or Arizona. One of the two. I like Baylor. I like Baylor's roster a lot. Jeremy Roach and Norchad Omier coming in. I love that. I love 2 experienced guys. Jeremy Roach, kind of a pass-first point guard, but can really score the ball. A lot of experience. He can kind of bring VJ Edgecombe, who's a top 5, top 6 recruit, to into his own. VJ Edgecombe, one of my favorite freshmen. Jaden Nunn coming back. Very excited there. Josh Ojiwuna, I think he is going to start at the 5. I think O'Meara will start at the 4 with Edgecombe, Nunn, and Roach as your guards. Langston Love will also be coming back. He'll be off the bench. They also brought in Jason Asamoah. I think that's going to be fun to watch. Rob Wright, Giannis Njonga, and Omar Ajibola. I don't know who the last 2 guys are, not going to lie, but I like their top 8. I like their top 8 a lot. Jeremy Roach, Jaden Nunn, VJ Edgecombe, Norchad O'Meara, Josh Ojiwuna, Langston Love, Jason Asamoah, Rob Wright. That's a solid starting 8. I just like this lineup in terms of how it fits together. I think it fits perfectly. This is going to be one of my teams where, a little spoiler alert, I think they're going to be a good bet to win the national championship next year, especially where their odds are right now. Now the loser, Oklahoma State. This roster is rough. Very rough. Incredibly rough. Arturo Dean, Jamarian Keller, Robert Jennings, Marcellus Avery, Isaiah Miranda, Brooks Manzer, Jeremiah Johnson, Connor Doe. How many people do you know there? I don't know very many. I know it's not very good, though. I think Oklahoma State is going to come in last in the conference. Either them, UCF, or Utah, probably. Let's talk. I just want to talk about UCF's lineup right now. Darius Johnson, Jordan Ivy Curry, who's like weirdly heavily loved. Benny Williams, who got kicked off of Syracuse. Keyshawn Hall, Rokas Josias, and Mikey Williams coming off the bench, I'm guessing. Mikey Williams and Benny Williams. I mean, Mikey Williams has more trouble than just getting kicked off a team. He had a lot of issues going back to his Memphis days. Benny Williams kicked off the team. Jordan Ivy Curry. This is a weird team. They actually have some talent, though. Will they be? I have no clue. I have no clue what to say about UCF. Will they be good? Will they be just atrocious? I don't know. We'll find out. Then Utah, I think, is really going to struggle. They had some late transfer portal losers, I guess, that kind of hurt them with Devin Smith, Kiba Kida, and it might be a tough year for Utah moving into the Big 12 this year. But a few sleepers that we want to talk about. Now, I've already mentioned on the show previously that I'm big on Cincinnati this year. Saw things last year from Cincinnati where I'm like, yeah, I think next year, as long as everyone stays, they're going to be a top 25 team, hovering around that 25 number. And guess what? They all stayed. So I'm very excited to see them. Day Thomas, Jizzle James, that is a great backcourt. Along with Simus Lakushis, that's a fun player. Dan Skillings, Aris Banadongo, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's a good starting 5. They got a good team. I'm really excited to see CJ Frederick, Connor Hickman, Arrington Page coming off the bench. I think this is going to be a good team. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12 just because, I mean, the top 5 of the Big 12 are so good. But I think Cincinnati has a lot of capabilities of being one of those sneaky teams, 7, 8 seed that makes a run in the NCAA tournament. And then Texas Tech. Not a lot of people talking about Texas Tech this year. They were obviously a 6 seed last year and then got beat by NC State in the tournament. So a lot of people kind of falling off them. But they got a good lineup. Chance McMillian, Elijah Hawkins, Kevin Overton, Darian Williams, Federico, Grant McCaslin as the coach. I like this starting 5. I think they're going to be just fine to make the NCAA tournament again. Remember last year they were in first for a while in the Big 12 and everyone was surprised. Yeah, I think you could see that happening. I mean, the Big 12 is just going to beat each other up, especially how the schedule lands. If Arizona, Baylor, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas are playing each other in those first 5 or 6 games, maybe Texas Tech could sneak up and be in that conversation as well. I'm excited to see how Texas Tech fares this year. All right, moving on, moving into the Big East. And I'm just going to say it, you would be stupid to just not take UConn to win the Big East because they are by far the best team with by far the best coach. Their lineup is also incredible. I really like their lineup. Some people are saying it's not a top 10 lineup, and they just have, obviously the best coach in the country. I think it's a top 10 lineup. I really like their lineup. Hassan Diarra coming back, Aiden Mahaney, Liam McNeely, the star freshman. I think Alex Caravan's going to be back, and then Samson Johnson. They're deep. They're very deep as well. Coming off the bench, Terrace Reed, Jalen Stewart, Solomon Ball, Ahmed Noel, Yusuf Signer. I like this team. I like their coach even more. I think they're deep. I think they're going to win the Big East by 2+ games again next year. I think they're by far the best team. The loser, and I hate to say it because the coach didn't do anything wrong. I think the last place team, no, I'm not. You could say DePaul. Will DePaul, can they really turn it around that much with Chris Holtmann? I like what Chris Holtmann's done with the team, but I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit. I think it's going to be Seton Hall, unfortunately. The winner of the NIT, they should have been in March Madness last year. They don't have any money. They have no money whatsoever. They lost, obviously Kadari Richmond, Dylan, whatever his name is, Wusu. They don't have any money. I don't know why they're not giving them any money. Their lineup is rough. Gian Swan, Isaiah Coleman, Scotty Middleton from Ohio State, Prince Elby, Godswill, Aaron, I don't know. I'm not very good at English. I'm not sure what his name is. I got the graphic pulled up for those on YouTube, so hopefully you can just see it and pronounce it out better than I do. Then their bench is not good either. I feel so bad. I really want this team to be good. I love what they did there last year. It's not a good lineup. I wish they had money. I don't know why they don't have money, but it's not good. I'm going to go out on a bold prediction. I think Seton Hall comes in last in the conference. Let's talk about DePaul's lineup, who also might come in last. Connor Enright, CJ Gunn, JJ Triner, NJ Benson, David Skogman, It's not horrible. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. It's not great. They've also got a decent bench. I don't think they're going to go 0. I don't think they're going to go unbeaten or winless in the Big East this year. I think they'll win a game. They got a better coach. Obviously, you basically couldn't have a worse coach unless your name's Kenny Payne. I think they're going to win a game. I don't think Seton Hall is going to be very good. I'm sorry, Seton Hall. I really wish you were going to be good because I think you deserve it. I think you got a great coach, but it stinks. It stinks to see it. A couple sleepers. We got 3 sleepers for this conference. If you've been following this for a while, you know I've been big on Xavier for a while. I like Xavier's roster this year. I wish Desmond Cloud was coming back, but he's not. Davion McKnight, Dante Maddox, Ryan Conwell, Jerome Hunter, Zach Fremantle. Fremantle is going to be an all-Big East player. I'm confident saying it. I think he's going to be really good as long as he stays healthy. John Hoogley, Dalen Swain, Marcus Foster coming off the bench. This is a good team. I saw pieces last year. I think Sean Miller is a terrific coach. They were borderline, they were sub 500 last year, but they were in the conversation for a while. As many injuries as they had last year, it was pretty incredible. They were even in the conversation. They were not an easy game for anyone to play last year, especially with their roster. I like it. I like this team a lot. I think they're going to be better this year. Please stay healthy this year, and I think you're talking about a top 8 seed in March Madness next year. I think they're going to make it. Just stay healthy. Please stay healthy. Another sleeper. Now, first off, let me mention, I'm not going to mention St. John's as a sleeper because they're not a sleeper anymore. You have Rick Pitino and you have one of the best backcourts in the country. That's not a sleeper team. So, yes, I think they're going to be good, but I'm not going to name them a sleeper. Providence, I am going to name a sleeper because they're kind of flying under the radar right now. Jaden Pierre running the 1. Bensley Joseph, the transfer from Miami. Jabri Abdul-Rahim. Yes, Abdul-Rahim. Bryce Hopkins coming back. Yes, get him back. And then Chris Esendako transferring from, where did he transfer from? I don't even remember. He's coming in. Wesley Cardette from Chicago State. Remember the Star when they beat Northwestern last year? Corey Floyd Jr. coming off the bench. I like this roster. I don't think I am very confident that UConn's going to win the Big East, but I think Providence with Kim English could be a tournament team. I think they'll be another bubble team. I think they'll be pretty good, though. I like this roster. I'm just a little bit lower on Bensley Joseph than most. Just that Miami team was so disappointing last year. Now, another sleeper. Another probably just freezing cold take that you can come back and give it to me. Georgetown. Something about it. I like their guards. Malik Mack, the transfer from Harvard. Jaden Epps is weirdly good, weirdly talented for being on such a horrible team last year. Remember, he started at Illinois, at Georgetown. He's good. Curtis Williams, and I really like Micah Peavy, the transfer from TCU. He's got experience. And then Drew Fielder at the 5. I'm not saying this might be a borderline like 8-10, 7-11 team who can just create some noise by, hey, maybe they beat UConn and then Ed Cooley is just an absolute legend. Like at home, they beat St. John's at home or beat someone. They can just prove spoiler. That's all I'm going to say. I don't hate their lineup. I like Malik Mack, Jaden Epps, and Micah Peavy. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. It's at least, it's not going to be the top, 6 or 7 teams, and then Georgetown and DePaul. I think they're going to fit in a little bit better than normal. In last place, we mentioned Seton Hall. We also have to mention Villanova. What is Kyle Neptune doing? Like what Villanova, remember the Blue Blood Final Four? What was that, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2022. Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and Villanova, and you're like, yeah, these are probably the 4 best basketball programs in the country. What happened? All because of one coach? Why has he... As soon as I see this lineup, after like you go through the transfer portal, I mean, the season's still on technically, you can still make some moves. Then you look at this lineup, I'd be like, all right, dude, like, we're not even going to give you another year. Like, this is ugly. Jameer Brickus, Mark Armstrong, Tyler Perkins, Jordan Longino, Malcolm Thomas. Who? What are we doing, Kyle Neptune? I mean, you're Villanova. I think they're lacking funds right now because no one believes in Kyle Neptune, and he's given them every reason to not believe in him. The team was talented last year. They showed signs early in the year. Then they got worse. What's that tell you? That's coaching. They got worse. Not in on Villanova. Butler, I think, will be okay. We'll see. I'm a little lenient on them. We're going to find out. I've been seeing them in some people top 40 rankings. I don't really like it, but we'll see. Hopefully they prove me wrong. Patrick McCaffrey, Pierre Brooks. Got a decent team, but Villanova, Seton Hall. I'm sorry, Seton Hall. I really feel bad, but Villanova, I don't feel bad. You got to make a decision there. Moving on. Moving into the Big Ten. Got a lot of bold takes. I apologize. So when these all fail, just come at me. It's fine. I'll deserve it. I got UCLA winning the Big Ten next year in their first year. I'm high on UCLA. I love their roster. I think Mick Cronin's going to have to put the pieces together, but that's what the non-con is for. I think once conference play comes around, because the Big Ten is going to be, I mean, obviously they got 1 million teams now. It's going to be crazy deep, but I don't think they have that one. They don't have that Purdue where it's just that straight powerhouse where like, yeah, no one's going to beat them. So I think it's going to be close between, Michigan State, kind of, their roster isn't as great as you think. Michigan, they're kind of unknown, just all these transfers. Purdue brings back just about everyone but Edey and Lance Jones. Ohio State's going to be good. Oregon should be good. Rutgers has that star freshman class. Indiana has the star transfer class. Maryland's got a lot of hope this year. Illinois got one of the best coaches in the country. Ultimately, I think it's UCLA that I'm just going off lineup who has the best lineup. I do think it's UCLA. Dylan Andrews, Sky Clark, Sebastian Mack, Kobe Johnson, Eric Daly Jr. Coming off the bench, they got Tyler Bilodeau, Lazar Stefanovic, Ade Mara. I like this lineup 1 through 8. I think it's really, really good. Their guard play is deep. Their size is deep. I really like it. I like what Mick Cronin put together. Can he put all the pieces together? Last year, they were so young. Remember, they had all the foreign guys who just kind of couldn't figure it out yet. I like this lineup, though. I like it a lot. I'm taking UCLA to win the Big Ten as of right now. Coming in last, now it's this was more, I'll save that for the SEC, but this was a tough one to pick. Just because it's like, you got the new schools coming in that weren't very good last year, like the USC, but they got Eric Musselman. I don't see Eric Musselman coming in last in the Big Ten. Washington now has Danny Sprinkle. I don't think Danny Sprinkle is going to come in last. So that leaves, the new schools probably aren't going to do it. As I mentioned, I'm in on UCLA. I'm pretty in on Oregon. I think Oregon's got a good roster. So that leaves one of the Big Ten schools from last year. So that kind of leaves Penn State, Minnesota, but Minnesota has Dawson Garcia coming back in. Watch out. I love Dawson Garcia. Iowa, which they have McCaffrey, who's a terrific coach, as we know. Northwestern, I think, is going to be good. So it kind of comes down to Penn State and Nebraska. I'm sorry, Nebraska fans. I loved you last year, but you're losing a lot. Rank Mask being hurt for the season is going to that's going to be tough. I ended up going up with Penn State, though. I think Penn State, if I had to pick right now, will be in last. It's close. It's close between them and Nebraska. Man, I'm sorry, Nebraska. I really like what you guys are doing there. I like Hoiberg, so that's the reason I ended up with Penn State. Javen Carter, DeMarco Dunn, Nick Kern Jr., Puff Johnson, Zach Hicks. I like Puff Johnson and Nick Kern. That's about it, though. I don't think their roster is very good. They were so disappointing last year. But what I will say about Penn State is they were more talented than they showed last year. So, like, all the way through, I think the Big Ten's going to be pretty good. But someone has to come in last. Nebraska's lineup looks like Sam Hoiberg, Raleigh Worcester, Juwan Gary, Bryce Williams, and then whoever steps into Rank Mass spot. I know I have Rank Mass on here right now, but he is going to be out for the season, unfortunately. They also brought in Connor Essegian from Wisconsin. He was kind of disappointing at Wisconsin, I'm not going to lie. But I don't think you can pick anyone else from the rest of the conference. If I'm wrong, tell me so. Maybe Iowa, but I like McCaffrey. They still have Peyton Sanford, who's probably going to be first team all Big Ten preseason, along with Dawson Garcia from Minnesota. It's going to be weird. It's going to be weird to watch. We'll see. We'll see going forward. Moving on to the SEC, the winner, I have to take Alabama. Alabama's roster is spectacular. I'm so torn on who to do preseason number one right now. Way too early, obviously. Either Alabama or Kansas, they are both their roster. I think they're top two without a doubt. I don't see anyone else being in there. Their starting lineup, I have Mark Sears. This is bear in mind, this is having Mark Sears come back. I think he's going to come back. I personally, selfishly, hope he does because he's great for college basketball. He'll be a high NIL guy. I think he's back. Chris Youngblood, the transfer from USF, Latrell Wrightsell, Grant Nelson, and Cliff Omori. Nice. Cliff Omori. What a land by Nate Oates there. Aiden Holloway coming off the bench, that transfer from Auburn. He might start, but he was kind of disappointing last year, but I think he might take that sophomore leap, especially in a role where he doesn't have to be the only guard. Like Auburn's lineup was not as good as you think last year. He was basically the only guard that could really make anything happen. Darian Reed, the star freshman coming in. Jaron Stevenson, who was the star in March Madness for a couple games. Houston Millett, Muhammad Diabate. If you were to start Aiden Holloway, Darian Reed, Jaron Stevenson, Houston Millett, Muhammad Diabate, that would be a terrific starting five. That would be a good starting five, and that is Alabama's bench. This team is going to be very good. I'm very excited to see Alabama. I do think they win the SEC. Now, I will say this. I do think the Big 12 is going to be the best conference next year just because that top five, as we mentioned, is like ridiculous. Ridiculous right now. The SEC does not have a team that I think is going to be bad next year, though, quite frankly. Maybe Missouri, maybe Oklahoma, maybe Vanderbilt. Byington hasn't lost, so why would he lose at Vanderbilt? I think the SEC is going to be terrific. In last place, which made this very difficult, I took Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a rough transfer season. Their lineup isn't great, but it was just kind of someone has to come in last. Yes, they're moving to the SEC. It might be a little bit of a change. Porter Moser has been spectacular. I will say that, obviously, at Loyola Chicago was spectacular. One of the most historic runs we've ever seen. Their lineup just isn't that good. Kobe Elvis, Bryson Gudine, Caden Cooper, Jaden Jones, Jalen Moore coming off the bench, Jacob Jones, Kual Atak, Yaya Kita. It's not great. It's not a great lineup, but Porter Moser is good. Last year they weren't supposed to be good, and they were good for a while. They were one of the last undefeated teams. Obviously didn't end up making ended up making March Madness, but yeah, it's pretty rough. It doesn't seem like they have very much money over there, but it's Oklahoma. You have to have money, right? I don't know. Maybe something's going on. A few other last place candidates. I don't think it's going to be Georgia. So if you're saying Georgia, I don't think it's going to be Georgia. I think Georgia's going to be pretty solid this year. Obviously, Missouri did not win a game last year in the SEC, so they're kind of an obvious choice, but they have a pretty solid lineup. Tony Perkins coming over from Iowa, Marquez Warwick, Tamar Bates, Mark Mitchell, who was one of the highest transfers from Duke, Jacob Cruz. That's a pretty good lineup, and I think Coach over there is better than you think. I know they had a horrible year, but Dennis Gates, he's better than you think. I like them. Vanderbilt, obviously Vanderbilt's always just kind of one of those obvious choices to to be in last. They might be, but they got a decent team. Mark Byington is a terrific coach. Jason Edwards, Chris Manon, Devin McLaughlin, Jalen Carey, Van Allen Lubin. It's not that bad. It's not that bad of a lineup. And then LSU also kind of in that conversation of, will they be any good? I don't know. We'll see. The sleepers. Sleepers we have to talk about. And yes, I'm falling into the trap as I do every single year. Texas. They're my sleeper. The roster's so good every year. I think this is kind of the swing year for Rodney Terry. If he can't do it with this roster, might be time to go in a different direction. Jordan Pope, Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark, Jason Kent, Caden Shendrick. Nice lineup, and I think they're going to get more. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Shendell Weaver coming off the bench. He is great. I think if he comes off the bench, he will be the sixth man of the year. But, I mean, you also have Alabama, Darian Reed, Aiden Holloway. They might start, though. I don't know. It's hard to pick. But Shendell Weaver will definitely be in the conversation. Nicholas Cody, Julian Larry. This lineup is spectacular. They're loaded. I've had them in the top 10 of my preseason. All comes down to Rodney Terry. Can Rodney Terry do it? I took Texas 2 years ago when they won the Big 12. Rodney Terry's first year, I took them to the national championship. Then they blew that lead to Miami. They made the Elite Eight. Not a disappointing year. Good year. They still made the Elite Eight. Last year, it was a disappointing year. They won a game. They beat Colorado State, and then they lost to their old coach in Rick Barnes. But they had too much talent to be a 7 seed last year. So we'll see. I love this roster. I think this roster is spectacular. Another sleeper who's kind of just flying under the radar, Lamont Paris's South Carolina. Jacoby Wright, Cam Scott, Colin Murray Boyles, Zach Davis, Nick Pringle. Coming off the bench, Miles Stute, Trent Noah. Nice team. It's a nice team. It's not the most talented team, but Lamont Paris didn't have the most talented team last year, and he took them all the way to a 6 seed and one of the best teams in the SEC. Don't count Lamont Paris out. I think he can do things with this roster. It's not the most talented, but I think he can make it happen. All right, that's all the 5 conferences. I know that was a lot. Hopefully you like the graphics if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, go watch on YouTube. We got good graphics pulled up so you can put names to names to the teams, put the lineups up. Got all the bench, everything on here. If you think anything different, if you want to hate on me for taking UCLA to win the Big Ten, call me out. Let me know what you think. I want to know what people think. I'm curious to see who do you think is going to win the Big Ten? I think the Big East is fairly obvious with UConn. The SEC, I think you have to take Alabama as of right now. That team is loaded. Big 12 is obviously close. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be on Kansas, even Houston, even Iowa State. I'm a little lower on Iowa State than a lot of people, but they'll be a popular pick. So I'm curious. Let me know. Do you think Duke's going to beat North Carolina? Comment below. Let me know. Moving on. All right, let's move on to some of the transfer predictions. We have just a list of players left. All these players are at least in the top 100 of, according to 247 Sports. That's what we use. Just going down the list, these are not in order of best. It's just kind of random whenever they entered all sorts of things. But Great Isobar is probably the biggest name left, I would say. I think he's either going to follow his coach Danny Sprinkle to Washington or stay at Utah State. Curious to see what he does. Those are my 2 predictions. Those are not bold predictions at all. That's just what I think. Some of these, like Dylan Mitchell, I'm saying Memphis just because I think it's a good fit for him to go to Memphis. No proof to that whatsoever. Some of these are just out of the blue. That's where I think he'll end up. Chaz Lanier, the transfer from North Florida, Kentucky, or Arkansas. He is valued. He is the number 11 recruit or transfer. According to 247 Sports, Kentucky and Arkansas have all the money in the world. I would expect him to end up there. Coleman Hawkins from Illinois, I expect to be at North Carolina. I really do think he's going to end up at North Carolina. I think they're going to. North Carolina, I thought Omori was going to end up there, and as soon as he went to Alabama, I'm like, yeah, they have to drop as much money as they can come up with on Coleman Hawkins. Bearing in mind he is in the NBA draft process, but I think he'll end up coming back. DJ Wagner, the point guard from Kentucky last year, I think he ends up at Arkansas. It's kind of not a bold prediction. Everyone thinks he's going to follow Calipari there. Trezarian White, the transfer from UNC Wilmington, their best team. Remember, they beat Kentucky last year at Kentucky. So they had a good season as well. I think he ends up at West Virginia. I think him and Darian DeVries, West Virginia kind of trying to fill up that roster. I think he ends up at West Virginia. That seems like a good fit. Bronny James is still in the transfer portal. Remember that? That was a big topic a while ago. Then you haven't really heard of him. I personally think he's going to end up in the NBA. I'm not saying that's what he should do, but I think if he doesn't, he will end up at Duquesne, kind of my guess. Other than that, I quite frankly have no clue. Maybe Ohio State. I put Duquesne/NBA on this list. I think it's going to be NBA, quite frankly. Garway Duel, transfer from Providence. I think he ends up at Georgetown, and if he ends up at Georgetown, I think that's going to be even a little bit better, for my prediction at least, that they'll be much better this year. Wesley Yates, the transfer from Washington. I think he ends up at Texas. I know he's been in talks with Texas. I think that's where he ends up going. I think that'd be a good fit, and that team would just get even better. Wooga Poplar from Miami. I wish he was going to stay at Miami this year because I had high hopes for Miami, but guess what? I had high hopes for Miami last year. How'd that work out for me? Not good. Wooga Poplar, I think he ends up at Kentucky. Not a bold prediction there. That's what a lot of people seem to be thinking. Day-Day Ames, transfer from Kansas State. Freshman last year, got a lot of years of eligibility. I think he ends up at Virginia, and I really hope he does because I think this would be a great fit. Good defender, fast. I hope he ends up at Virginia. I heard he's been talking to Virginia, so that's why I have him at Virginia right now. That'd be a cool little team if he ends up there. AJ Hogard transferring from Michigan State. I think this is a tough one. I just put where I think he'd fit well, and that's at USC. I think he would fit well with Musselman's style at USC. Could also see him coming back to Michigan State. Jackson Robinson, the transfer from BYU. He's in the NBA draft process, but if he doesn't go to the draft, I think he will end up at Kentucky with Mark Pope. Not a bold prediction there at all. Ugana Onyenso also was kind of set on going to the NBA draft. Now he's set on coming back to college, it seems. I think he follows Calipari to Arkansas, I would think. I mean, Onyenso was the guy that Calipari trusted last year, so if he has that trust, why not go to Arkansas, follow him? Arthur Kaluma, the transfer from Kansas State. I think he ends up at Louisville. This seems like just a good fit. I don't have any proof to back this up whatsoever. I think it's just a good fit to go to Louisville. I would like that. Same goes for Cam Christie, going from Minnesota. I think it's a good fit to go to Michigan State. I think he'd fit in well there. They're kind of looking for that premier guy. I think Cam Christie can be that guy. I think that'd be a nice little addition there. Jameer Watkins, who is probably my favorite player on this list. He transferred from VCU to Florida State last year. And you think going from the A10 to the ACC on a bad team, maybe he wouldn't show out. He showed out. He is incredible. He was their leading scorer. He led them in just about every statistical category. I think he's a stud. He's testing the NBA draft waters right now. If he doesn't go to the NBA, I think North Carolina would be a pretty good fit, but it just depends how much money will North Carolina drop on Coleman Hawkins if that does end up going through, and then will they have enough money to get Jameer Watkins? If they got Jameer Watkins and Coleman Hawkins, I think North Carolina's up to probably number 3, maybe. Then it would be Kansas, Alabama, and North Carolina. And then you got to throw UConn in there, right? Probably versus all. That'd be pretty special. JT Toppin transferring from New Mexico, star freshman last year. I've heard Texas. I have no real proof to back it up, just a few sources. I've heard Texas. I would like if he goes to Texas. I think that would fit pretty perfectly. Seems like a good fit. Go to Texas. I think that'd be fun. Riley Kugel. Got to mention him. He's in the transfer portal. Haven't mentioned his name in a long time because he wasn't in the transfer portal because we thought he was all going to Kansas. I don't know. I have no clue where he's going to end up. I put on this list, maybe Florida. Maybe he'll go back to Florida. Just maybe he had second doubts about going to Kansas, and he's like, yeah, my playing time's going to be bad. I think if he goes to Florida, we talked last week about Florida and Elijah Martin starting as a guard. I think Riley Kugel is better than Elijah Martin. I'm not that high on Elijah Martin, but yeah, even if he came back as a 6-man or move Elijah Martin to a 6-man, that'd be a fairly good team. Trayvon Brazile, he is in the NBA draft process. Remember, he was hurt all year last year. I'm thinking he's going to come back, and I come back to Arkansas, but maybe USC if he follows Eric Musselman. But yeah, I think he's got to come back and continue to get healthy. I don't think he's 100% yet. Chris Ledlum transferring from St. John's. He's also testing the NBA waters. I think he might end up coming back to St. John's, quite frankly. And then Miles Kelly, the last one we're going to talk about, transferring from Georgia Tech. I think he's going to end up at either Oklahoma or Pitt. That seems like a pretty good fit for both teams. Miles Kelly, he was their Georgia Tech's leading scorer last year. I think that would kind of just be a perfect scenario. He can be the leading scorer at Pitt or Oklahoma next year. So that'd be a good pickup for either of those two schools. All right, moving on to the odds to win it all, plus our best betting show right now. Starting with the best odds to win it all, and then I'm just going to go through this list. It's like the top 10 or 12 or whatever. Then I'll mention if I would consider betting them or not. This is according to FANATICS Sportsbook, by the way. Duke is the favorite at plus 1,000. Nope, don't bet them. Don't like it. Would not bet Duke to win the national championship at all. Right now, especially at plus 1,000, not even close. Not even close to being worth. If Duke was plus 1,500, I would still probably say no. I don't think, I need to be proven otherwise by Shire. They're young. They're Calipari-like team with the young stars. That's tough. That's tough to win a national championship. Kansas is the second favorite at plus 1,100. If you bet Kansas, I'm not going to hate on you for it because their roster is loaded. Plus 1,100 is not great in the preseason, but I mean, this roster is so good to the point where it's like, once they start winning games, they'll probably move to like plus 1,800 right away. So it's probably not a horrible bet. Same goes for UConn. UConn plus 1,200. Like by the time they win the Big East, which I'm fairly certain they're going to, they'll probably be like plus like 800 again. So bet them at plus 1,200, cash out at plus 800. Yeah, whatever you want to do. Now, one of my favorite bets, Alabama plus 1,500. This is a top 2 roster in the country at plus 1,500. I think once they start dominating teams, they're going to get better. Give me Alabama. Alabama, the first good bet I would take. Houston at plus 1,500 is another one of those. I'm not going to hate on you for it, but it's okay. It's all right. North Carolina, I definitely will not hate on you for it. This is the second best bet. Alabama and North Carolina both plus 1,500. Give me North Carolina plus 1,500, especially if they add Coleman Hawkins and Jameer Watkins. They'll boost up to probably plus 1,100, maybe plus 1,200. Yes, North Carolina, Alabama, North Carolina, my two best bets as of right now. Moving on, another one we're going to add to the list, Baylor. Baylor plus 2,000. I love it. I love it. Maybe my favorite one. I told you I was going to talk about Baylor. I love Baylor. I love this roster. I think it fits well. They only have one superstar freshman. You know who else had one superstar freshman last year? It was UConn to go along with an experienced roster, a lot of talent. It's Baylor. I love Baylor. They're probably my preseason favorite odd-wise. Yeah, they're my favorite bet. Plus 2,000. I love it. Arizona plus 2,500. Do not love it. Tommy Lloyd has not proven himself in March Madness. I wouldn't do it. Auburn plus 2,500. I don't love it. In fact, I hate it. Do not bet Auburn at plus 2,500. They were not that good last year. I know they were rated high at KenPom. They were the one team I think they were the computer trickers. Auburn was. Gonzaga plus 2,500. I like it. I do like it. I'm not going to put it on my best bets because, quite frankly, I was a little bit lower on Gonzaga last year. I don't think they were as good as they weren't talented enough to like make a Final Four. I know a lot of people had them like beating Purdue. They didn't match up with Purdue. They weren't as talented as Purdue. But at plus 2,500, they return everyone, especially adding Caleb Battle. I like it. If you can find them to make the Final Four somewhere, I like that better. Yeah, I don't hate it. Iowa State at plus 2,500. I'm going to throw it in the same boat as Gonzaga. I like it. I don't hate it. I think plus 2,500 is a lot. Once again, I was a little bit of an Iowa State hater last year. They were good, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't see them as elite to like national championship contender. I saw some people take them to the national championship. I'm like, I don't think they're that elite. Kentucky at plus 2,500. Nope, don't do it. Don't like it at all. Same with Arkansas at plus 3,000. Nope, don't like it. Purdue plus 3,000. Do not like it at all. Now just going down even further for some of the best value bets, I think. Let's start with Texas. Yep, I'm falling into the trap at plus 4,000. Plus 4,000 is high. For Texas, for that roster, that's high. I'll take it. Make the Final Four, and then I will cash out, I hope. UCLA at plus 6,000. If you're like me and kind of bought in on Mick Cronin's squad this year, plus 6,000 is pretty good. Same goes for Ohio State at plus 6,000. They have a pretty good roster. New coach, a lot of firepower, kind of has Dusty May vibes. I like him at plus 6,000. So my 6 best bets. Alabama plus 1,500. This is in no particular order, bear in mind. Alabama plus 1,500. North Carolina plus 1,500. Baylor plus 2,000. Moving down Texas plus 4,000, UCLA plus 6,000, Iowa State plus, not Iowa State, excuse me. Scratch that. Ohio State plus 6,000. Plus 6,000 is high. High odds, especially for a blue blood like UCLA. That's pretty high. That's going to do it. That's the show. I expect this to be about a 30-minute show. We're at about 55 minutes right now. Did not expect that. Appreciate all of those for sticking with me. Thank you guys again. All these views, all the likes, all the subscriptions. It's perfect. Keep continuing to do it. Keep continuing to grow. Really appreciate it. Click the subscribe button before you leave. Click the like button. Let us know you're here. Remember, you have things to comment. I'm looking for an advertiser. If you have advertising experience, I'll pay you for your time. Just message me. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the details. Or also, if you're interested in selling stuff, like selling clothes, a clothing brand, I would love to start creating nice shirts or something. Selling a TikTok shop, whatever you want. Someone message me. I'm ready to get this going. I want to take advantage of all this love I've been getting. Really appreciate it. Another thing to comment, B. Best Bet Show. Are you guys interested? Would you like it? Do you like my odds? Do you like some of the stuff I've been talking about? If you're interested in Best Bet Show, now it probably wouldn't be more than a 30-minute show, but I can do it daily if it comes to it. Been working 11 to 6, so I can wake up early, do a Best Bet Show every day. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be until October, November, December, whenever, as soon as it gets closer to the season. And then the most important one, C, fan mail. Next episode is going to be fan mail. Drop your questions below or hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You want to DM me, you want to comment on one of our pages. I'm going to post something on there for to comment your questions. Whatever you want to know, I'll give you a shout out, say your name, whatever you want. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you are a long-time subscriber, quick subscriber, whatever you want. Comment below. I'm going to link all of this stuff below. I'll link the Instagram below, Twitter, TikTok. Give us a follow on there. I'll also put the email below, so if you just want to shoot us an email, make it easy. That would also be perfect. Thanks again. Everyone have a great rest of their week. It's exciting. It's almost college basketball time. Stay safe out there. See you later.